In this video, we are going to discuss frequency distribution and histogram. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to use this frequency table to organize this data set. Let's read the description of the data. This is about the price of GPS navigators. The following sample data set lists the prices in dollars of 40 portable global positioning system GPS navigators. So that tells me each number represent what? Anyone else? Each number represent a price, right? So the first number is 59. 59 means one of the GPS is $59. The second number is 70. That means one of the GPS is $70. All right, so we have 30 GPS, so we have 30 prices, and then we use 7 class. So the class, I already filled that out for you. So if you are wondering how to set up the class boundaries from 59 to 144, how do you set this up? Well, I make a part 1, so there is a video before this, so I already explained how to set up the class by yourself. There are 2 methods to do it. They are both correct. If you want to find out how, please watch the other video. So in this video, I will just give you all the classes, because if I do this in my perspective, in the instructor's perspective, it is easier to write a problem, to create a problem for students if you give them the classes. All right, so let's start. So boundaries, how do you do the boundary? So boundary is like this. Let's say from 0 to 1, I want to minimize the distance between 0 and 1. I want to cut this into 2 equal pieces. How? The answer is you just take a middle, right? So first you take a 0 plus 0.5, you get to 0.5, and then from 1 minus 0.5, you get to 0.5, right? So this one from 59, I am going to take the lower limit, subtract 0.5, so that will be a 59 minus 0.5, that equals to 58.5, and then I am going to take 114 plus 0.5, that equals to 114.5. Before we move on from 114 to 115, there is a 1 unit gap. Right now I am going to minimize this unit gap. As long as at 115 you take the lower limit, you subtract 0.5, you reach to 114.5. So at this point there is no more gap between the first and the second class. And then 170 plus 0.5, it is always 0.5, 170.5. And then 171 minus 0.5, that is 170.5, and then 226 plus 0.5 equals to 226.5, and then for the rest I will just do the math. So 226.5, 282.5, 282.5, 338.5, 338.5, 394.5, 394.5, and then 450.5. And then next one is a midpoint. Let's switch color for midpoint. So for midpoint, we are going to take the lower limit plus the upper limit, and then you get the sum first. All right, get the sum first, and then divide that by 2. This is equals to 86.5. And then this one, you take 150 plus 170, the sum divided by 2 equals to 142.5. When you do this on your calculator, make sure you get the sum first. All right, so don't do 115 plus 170 and then type divided by 2. If you do this without parentheses, according to the order of operation, the calculator will take 170 divided by 2 first. If you do so, that will just mess up the whole problem. And then 171 plus 226 divided by 2 equals to 198.5. And then this one, 227 plus 282 divided by 2, you get 254.5. 283 plus 338 divided by 2, you get 310.5. And then 339 plus 394 divided by 2, you get 366.5. 395 plus 450 divided by 2, you get 422.5. All right, and then the next one is frequency. So for frequency, the way you do this is from 59 to 114. 59 to 114. We don't have 114, so that includes the first 5 data. So the frequency is 5. That means 5 numbers in the data set, they fit into the first class. And then the next one is 115 to 170. So that will be right here, right? All the way to, if you don't like this, we can switch color, but I don't want to keep switching colors. I will just draw a different shape. So 170. So that will be 5 plus 3, which is 8. And then 180, 171 to 226. So 171, we don't have it. We take the 180 to 226. And then we reach to 220. If you do this on a paper, you can use a highlighter, right? You can use different colors. So that will be a 6. And then 270, 227 to 282. So that is like right here, and then all the way to 282. So we start at 275. So that will be a 5. And then 283 to 338. So that will be the next 2 data, right here. So this will be a 2, and then 339 to 394. So that will be this only one data, and then the last one is 3. So since we have 30 numbers, so you add up this column, you will get the total equals to 30. If the total is not equals to 30, you have a big trouble. One of them, or maybe more than one of them, is wrong. So the consequence is you have to go back to count everything again, especially when you do this type of problem for a random textbook. I am a nice person. I sort the data in ascending order for you, but most of the time the textbook, they shuffle up the numbers. You have to do it very, very carefully. Trust me, when you do a problem from a book, they won't sort the data for you. So counting the frequency is actually pretty challenging, right? You have to really keep your eyes open. And then relative frequency in mathematics, well, relative means you compare each individual frequency. You set up a ratio, not compare. You set up a ratio between every individual frequency and the total. So this will be 5 over 30. Do not simplify this. You don't need to. You don't need to show the decimal at all. But if you are doing a problem online or from another textbook, they want you to do the simplification or approximation, then just do it. In my class, I never ask people to do it. This fraction is fine. You don't have to tell me that is equals to 1 over 6 because this is not an algebra class. All right, so 8 over 30, 6 over 30, 5 over 30, 2 over 30, 1 over 30, and then 3 over 30. So add this up. So we have a common denominator. So that is 30 equals to 30, which is equals to 1. And then the next thing is cumulative frequency. So cumulative frequency, we start with the first frequency, and then we add this to the next frequency. We get 13. 5 plus 8 equals to 13. And then you have 13 plus 6 equals to 19. And then 19 plus 5 equals to 24. 24 plus 2 equals to 26. 26 plus 1. 27 plus 3 equals to 30. So this 30 and the total, they must match because you add up the frequency, right? Cumulative is like putting your t-shirt one on top of another. So at the end of the day, you will see the total number of t-shirts. So this one, at the end of the day, we will see that we have 30 GPS, 30 prices. Okay, so now the distribution table is done. Which class has the highest frequency? This one has the lowest, right? And then this one has the highest. Okay, so using this table, I can tell that most of the GPS, the price is about 115 to 226, right? Because the highest frequency, they are right there. So I can tell the range of the GPS. So most of the GPS, they are about that much to that much. So that is the benefit of building this table. I can draw conclusions easily. So the next thing that we have to do is I want to graph the table. I want to draw a histogram. So the first histogram that I would like to do is I would like to use the class boundary and frequency. All right, so this one I have to scroll down. So if you are not taking any notes, I suggest you to take a screenshot so you know what I'm doing, because I don't want to scroll up and down. All right, did you get your screenshot? Okay, let's move. So the first one that I would like to do is using boundaries and frequency. All right, let's do it. So the first picture, can I keep? Let's keep this side by side. Okay, how about this? So I got my horizontal axis, vertical axis, and horizontal axis. And then I would like to do my boundary, so 58.5 to 114.5, and then 114 to 170, 226, 282, and then 338. So looks like we need more space. That's fine. 338 to 394, and then to 450. Okay, then we cannot have two histograms side by side then. Okay, that's fine, that's fine. And then this one, what is the label of the horizontal axis? The data, what's the unit? Is price, right? So you can either use price or you use dollars or dollars. Either one is fine. And then this one, since you are using frequency, then this is called frequency. So the first class, the frequency is 5. That is the third highest. So we are not going to, scale the vertical axis. So I will just draw a bar and then put a 5 on top of it. So we don't need to scale the vertical axis. And then the next one is 8. And then the next one is 6. And then 5. And then a 2. And then a 1, and then a 3. There you go. So this one, after we finish the graph, I can see that most of the GPS is between 114.5 and 170.5 dollars, because that is the highest frequency. And then not that many GPS, they are at this range because that is the lowest frequency. So the benefit of doing this is I can see the highest and the lowest pretty quickly, and I can see the price too. So what else do I see? I also see the distribution of the price. So what is distribution? This is a big keyword in statistics. So distribution, so let's go back really quick. So you have this data, right? So imagine this, just picture this in your mind. You use your hand, you grab this data, and you are now holding 30 numbers on your hand. And then you prepare an horizontal and vertical axis, right? Without any bars yet, so you have a space. You are ready to create a histogram. So now you are not writing anything. You toss those 30 numbers onto the histogram and see how they spread out. So the way they spread out looks like this. So this is the distribution. So distribution basically describes how data spread out. That's what distribution is. It's a really big word in statistics. This you have to memorize. And then the next one I would like to do is I would like to use frequency and midpoint. How's that? Frequency and midpoint. So you still have the data, right? So I'm going to draw another one. This one doesn't have to be too long, but this one we have to make that longer because we have 7 classes. So using frequency and midpoint. So this one frequency, and then this one we have a midpoint. So we have 86.5, 86.5, 142.5, 198.5, and then 254.5, 310, 366, and then 422. And then the height, the first one is 5, right? So you make sure the mark is between the bar. Okay, so that is a 5, and then the next one is the highest, is 8, and then a 6, and then a 5, and then a 2, and then a 1, and then a 3. So there you go. That is the frequency and midpoint. Make sure this is right in the middle of each bar, and then this is not midpoint. This, you can call this a price or dollars. The next one, so we already use a frequency, so let's try to use relative frequency, and I want to switch color for that, for relative frequency. So again, we start with a vertical axis, and then a horizontal axis, and then this is called price, and then this is relative frequency. Right, so how the distribution works, so you have 30 numbers on your hand, right? Imagine you just toss those 30 numbers onto this blank picture, and this is how they spread out, right? So that is the distribution. Distribution basically means the spread of the data, describes how data spread out. Relative frequency and price. So the first one, let's try the boundaries. I know we have to redo those numbers, so 58.5, 114.5, but it's a good practice. 170 to 226, and then 282, 338, 394, and then a 450. So the first one is no longer 5, is 5 over 30 now. So this is 5 over 30, and then we have a 8 over 30, 6 over 30, oops, let's redo that, 6 over 30, and then we have a 5 over 30, it's not that hard to do, right? And then 2 over 30, and then a 1 over 30, and then a 3 over 30. There you go, relative frequency. I know the distribution doesn't change. What is changing is these fractions and integer, and then the mark. Either you use boundary or you use midpoint. I prefer to use midpoint because that is simpler. Okay, last one. Let's do midpoint and relative frequency. This one is my favorite. So we have relative frequency, and then we have price. So this one we are using midpoint, so I have to draw 7 marks, right? 7 classes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we drop the midpoints, 86.5, 142, 198, 254, 310, 366, and then 422. The first one using relative frequencies, that means fraction, is 5 over 30. And then 8, and then 6, and then a 5, and then a 2, and then a 1, and then a 3. That's it. So sometimes they might ask you, hey, where is the highest class? So this one is the highest class, and then this one is the lowest class. Sometimes we might have 2 highest classes because we might have 2 classes, they have the same frequency. Alright, so that will be the end of this video. If you think this is helpful, like, subscribe, share this out for me. I appreciate your help really, really much. I'm sure that there are many people taking online statistics class. Right, I see you all in the next lesson.